So coming to today's lecture, so we'll be talking about the gradient. Now, as you can see in this picture, so a gradient is nothing but some of you might be knowing the definition, actual definition, but not interested in the definition. What actually a gradient is, nothing but a departure of track from level. It is known as gradient. What I mean by track is, suppose I draw a horizontal line at this point. So the railway track, it is actually somewhat at the lower level than the horizontal level. So this departure, if you term it in some angle theta, so this angle theta will be the gradient in this case. Okay, so that is nothing but the definition of the gradient. Then the main reasons why we provide gradient is, now obviously in case of highways it becomes much more easier to give a gradient, but in railways you have to consider a lot more of parameters while giving or considering a gradient to be incorporated in your alignment. The main reason is that you have a fixed track, a railway track, and your engine and the bogies, whatever is the vehicle traveling on those tracks, that those will follow a fixed path. So your gradient will affect on various parameters such as how much load that train can haul, or what will be the braking distance in case the driver decides to apply brake on a up gradient or a down gradient. So a lot of things are to be considered, but the main purpose of providing a gradient, if we see that, to provide a uniform rate of rise or fall as far as possible. Now, why rise or fall will come into picture, because obviously it's a we are giving railway on the land surface, so we can't guarantee that all the places connected by our railway will have the same elevation or will be at same altitude. Suppose there are two stations to be connected, A and B, so there are always chances, or mostly it is seen that A is having suppose some elevation of 100 meter. So it's very rarely seen that two stations nearby each other are having the same elevation. There is at least some difference. So even if the difference is as small as a 2 meter difference, for example, so 100 meter and 102 meter, but this 2 meter difference has to be covered up in a particular length, either in a single gradient, in a single stretch, or it may take, or the engineer may provide varying gradients. Okay, so as you can see here, one up gradient, then a down gradient, and then again a up gradient. So this totally depends on the designer, the engineer who is designing this gradient. So mainly gradient is useful when you have two stations located at different elevation. And the most important aspect of construction, the cost aspect. So you might have seen this in your surveying project as well, in which you did the road profile leveling. So you had also done the gradient part, and you had adopted such a gradient that the earthwork is balanced. That is, the cutting is almost equal to the cut is almost equal to the fill section. So this is one of the thumb rule that is followed, and if it is followed, not always necessary it's exactly equal, but if it is almost equal, then your cost is reduced, or it is optimized, in other words, or in better words. So these are the reasons for providing the gradient. And a small revision, that how you actually measure gradient. Now this also all of you must be knowing, but then just to revise with this concept. So what we said, that it is departure of the track from the level surface or the level. So that is nothing but the gradient. So you can express it or measure it either in extent of rise or fall in 100 horizontal units. That is, suppose I consider a horizontal distance of 100 units. I'm not giving it any meter centimeter or kilometer unit. I'm just naming it as unit. So for 100 horizontal, how much is the rise or how much is the fall? So if it is a rise, I'll just join this, okay, and this will be my gradient. This slope, it will be my gradient. And if it's a fall, then again I'll join this, and again this slope will be my gradient. Okay, so the horizontal, or it can be also measured as the horizontal distance traveled for a rise or fall in 1 unit. So uh, just I am reversing that. Suppose I am saying that it's a 1 unit rise. So for 1 unit to be uh, given rise from point A to B, how much is the horizontal distance that it has to cover? So even if I join this, then this becomes my gradient. Okay, so that's the meaning. And the example is given here, that suppose I say it's a 4% gradient. So what 4% mean is 4%, you can write it as 4 by 100. So in 4 by 100, the 4 is nothing but the vertical and the 100 is nothing but the horizontal. So for raising your level by 4 units, you need to go horizontal 100 units. So suppose I have to start from this point A is my starting point, and at point B I am expecting to raise the level or elevation by 4 units. So for example purpose, we'll say that the units are in meters. Okay, so from point A to point B, it's a 100-meter distance, and in this 100-meter we are intending to raise our gradient or raise our level by 4 meter. So in that case, whatever is this slanting line, that will be my actual sloping surface, and that is the actual gradient. So that gradient is written as a 4% gradient. Okay, so 4% you can uh, just divide it more. That if I divide 100 by 4, so it comes out to be 1 by 25. So this 4% is, or it can also be written as 1 by 25. So again, it's a fraction. In the fraction, the numerator is the vertical, the denominator is the horizontal. So this 4 meter vertical and 100-meter horizontal, I can also draw as a 25-meter horizontal and a 1 meter vertical. Okay, so a 1 meter vertical, and whatever is this slanting line, that will be my again 4% gradient. Now, if you draw this to scale, if you draw this yellow triangle and red triangle to the scale on graph, if you see, so the slanting line will be the same, or moreover this angle with the horizontal will be same. So you saw that a single gradient, a 4% gradient, you can express it in two ways because it was divisible. So just keep in mind that always a gradient is expressed in 1 is to something, and if it is 1 is to something, then that 1 is vertical and that something x is the horizontal. So it is always expressed as vertical is to horizontal. So coming to the types of gradient in railway engineering, now they are a bit tricky to understand. So I'll suggest that you just focus on the presentation and whatever I am explaining. So I'll try to explain it in the much simpler way. So first type is the ruling gradient. Now ruling gradient is nothing but, definition wise if you go, so it is defined as a gradient which determines maximum load that engine can haul on a section. Now as we all know, railways, it is a continuous system or a continuous network. Okay, suppose we go from Kashmir to Kanyakumari. So From Kashmir to Kanyakumari, you have thousands of kilometers of railway track. Okay? For explanation purpose, we'll consider it's a straight one. Okay? Just for explanation purpose, because in actually you have a lot more of zigzag one. Now this, suppose it's 2000 kilometer track. So this 2000 kilometer, it is never considered as a single track, railway track. It is divided into different sections. Okay. So it is divided into different sections, and the design of this section is also varying depending on the topography, because throughout the 2000 kilometer, the topography is not going to be same. So if you consider a particular section, suppose that section can be anywhere in tens of kilometers or even hundreds of kilometers, but it is generally kept as optimum as possible. So suppose if it is, for example, a 5 kilometer section. So in 5 kilometer section, what is the maximum load that my engine can take? So that will be determined. Suppose I am, as you can see in this picture, you have just one engine here. Okay, it's an electric engine, so you just have one engine. So in this 5 kilometer stretch, suppose this is the engine that I'll be using, or all the railway, all the trains passing on this 5 kilometer stretch, if they are using this engine, so this engine will have its own capacity to carry some load, and that load carrying capacity, it will vary on the gradient. Okay, because you have studied in your engineering mechanics that work done on a sloping surface. Okay, so you had a typical problem of a slope, and then you had a rectangular block kept, and then you had to work out what is the friction or what is the work done to overcome the friction. So same way that concept is applied here. So in case you have a gradient, so the work done is obviously more. We all know that if it is a gradient, if you have a up gradient, the work done is more. So if we apply that to the railway, so the work to be done by a railway engine on a up gradient, it is more. But if the gradient is very steep, so the work done will be a lot much greater, and in that case the load carrying capacity of your engine will decrease. But we all know that once the railway, if it starts from Kashmir and if it is going to Kanyakumari, okay, we have suppose some express train which goes from Kashmir to Kanyakumari. So whatever are the number of bogies, it will start with in Kashmir, suppose 20 bogies. So all 20 bogies have to be carried to Kanyakumari. So even if this kind of thing is encountered in between, you have a steep gradient, so you can't just remove 5 or 10 bogies and then take the rest of the 10 bogies ahead. So if you are getting this concept, then the gradient is the deciding factor of how much load your engine will carry. So such a gradient which decides the maximum load. Now, as railway, it is a uh, you can say it's a venture to gain profit. Okay, Indian Railways, the main aim is to optimize the cost. So obviously, they will also think that in one go you have to carry maximum load. Either it can be passenger or it can be cargo. So they will always target for maximum load. So what they will find is such a gradient which will allow your train to carry or engine to carry a maximum load and a single engine. Okay. So if a single engine has to carry a maximum load, so what should be the gradient for this 5 kilometer stretch? This 5 kilometer stretch is nothing but the section that we are considering. Okay, this 5 kilometer stretch is the section. So in this section, your train has to carry a maximum load, and that will be governed by what gradient you provide, and that gradient is nothing but a ruling gradient. Okay, so I hope it's clear to you. Ruling gradient is nothing but the maximum gradient allowed on a track section. Now this is important. I have highlighted that it's a track section. Okay, so the whole railway length, it is divided into different sections, and then for each section you find out what is the maximum load that your engine can carry for a particular gradient, and that gradient is termed as a ruling. And for economical purpose, the ruling gradient is the maximum gradient which is allowed. So if you provide a gradient more than this ruling gradient, now when I say a gradient greater than ruling gradient, okay, suppose a gradient x is greater than the ruling gradient. What do I mean by greater is, if suppose ruling gradient is something like this, okay, this slope is the gradient, so that x gradient is something like this, okay. So you can see the difference. Gradient is greater, that means this slope is going to be steep, so that's why ruling gradient is the maximum gradient allowed on a track section. So for one locomotive or one engine, in Indian Railways they have a thumb rule or some standard values that in a plain terrain or a plain region, 150 to 1 in 200 is the ruling gradient adopted generally, and in hilly areas it's 1 in 100 to 1 in 150. Okay, so you can see in hilly areas the ruling gradient is a bit steeper than this plain terrain, obviously because in hilly areas the topography is of that kind. And one important thing to understand is, once the ruling gradient is specified for a section, there should be no grade steeper than this ruling gradient. So for this 5 kilometer stretch, suppose, now if I just expand this 5 kilometer, so this is the 5 kilometer stretch, okay, from point A to B, so it's a 5 kilometer stretch. So now if I design or if I decide that this 5 kilometer stretch, the ruling gradient will be 1 in 200, suppose. So then nowhere in between this 5 kilometer stretch there should be any railway track which is having a gradient more than this, more than 1 is to 200. Okay. Now more than 1 is to 200 means the value of this horizontal, it will go on decreasing. Okay. So if the value of horizontal goes on decreasing and the vertical remains the same, so that means your grade is becoming steeper and steeper. So that's a rule. Now you'll see, once we remember or note down this rule that the ruling gradient is the steepest one in a section and no gradient should be steeper than this, then immediately the next three or next two types of gradient that we'll be seeing, those will be immediately violating these rules. But there are some reasons for those violations. So the second gradient is the momentum gradient. Now the name suggests that momentum is nothing but whenever a object rolls down on a down gradient, it gains some momentum due to the velocity, or due to the slope, it gains velocity and that is converted into momentum. And then suppose in a railway, if we have to reduce the work done by the engine, so generally it is preferred that a down gradient, it is followed by an up gradient. So I have just exaggerated the gradient over here for your understanding. So if I provide this kind of a gradient, that a down gradient followed by immediately a up gradient, so whatever will be the velocity gained by the train on this down gradient, it will convert into momentum, and that momentum will be utilized to scale this up gradient. So in that case, the work or load on the engine will be less, because whatever is the momentum generated, the train is using that momentum itself. So in that case, in such situations, this up gradient is nothing but this momentum gradient. Okay. So it's easy to understand. In this picture, you will be seeing it clearly. So it's a bit blurry picture because it's taken from a video. So in this, if you see, you have a down gradient here. This is the down gradient, and somewhere here you have this point, the valley point, and then from here again you have an up gradient. Okay. So this down gradient will create a momentum to this train, and that momentum will be utilized to haul this up gradient. So this up gradient in this case will be the momentum gradient. Okay. So same is written here. Now what happens is, in some cases, such as the valley or the hilly region, the momentum gradient can be steeper than the ruling gradient. Now, if you remember, just a few minutes before I told you that once we see this rule of ruling gradient, that it's a maximum gradient and no gradient on your section will be steeper than this. The moment we see this rule, it will be violated by the next two types. So here is the case of violation, that in momentum gradient, it can be steeper than your ruling gradient in case of valleys. Okay, so that is acceptable, but this momentum gradient will not determine the maximum load. Okay, so the confusion which can happen is what I told you. The maximum load of your, or the maximum load that your engine can take, it is determined by the ruling gradient. I'll just write the short form RG, and this ruling gradient is the maximum gradient on your section. So it's the maximum grade on a section. But now I am saying that sometimes the momentum gradient, okay, sometimes your momentum gradient mg, it exceeds your ruling gradient because you have a valley or a hilly terrain. So in that case, what will happen? In that case, your ruling gradient will no longer be the maximum gradient for that section. Your momentum gradient will be maximum. But we will not use this momentum gradient to define this maximum load. Our maximum load will be defined by the ruling gradient only. Okay, so this is the main thing that students find confusing. So it's totally different. Maximum load, only ruling gradient is used to determine the maximum load. And if any other gradient, suppose in this case momentum gradient is greater than your ruling gradient, so that is because you have a constraint of your topography or terrain, that you have a valley region. You cannot destroy the whole valley and just make it flat. So in that case, we allow our gradient to be greater than ruling gradient, but that gradient, that greater momentum gradient, is not determined for, or not used for determining the maximum load of your engine. Okay, so this is a very important thing to remember. So this is the momentum gradient. Then you have a pusher gradient. Now pusher gradient, from the name if you see, it is a gradient on which you require a push. So now what happens, again a second case of violation if you see. So in some cases, the gradient or the topography is so extreme, or you have a hilly or mountainous region, that you have to provide gradient steeper than your ruling gradient. Okay, but the moment I told you that the moment we increase the gradient, we increase the slope, the work to be done by your vehicle or the engine in this case, it will also increase. So that will decrease the load carrying capacity of your engine. But we can't do that. Half the bogies will leave it or the downhill, and then we'll take the half bogies uphill. So in that case, we have to carry all the bogies. So in that case, what is done is a extra engine or a pusher engine or a helper engine is attached to the end of the train. So if you can see on the right hand side, this is the train, this is the main engine of your this train, and now it is on a flat surface, but it has traversed a steeper gradient. So at the end of this, you can see it is circled in the second picture. The one I have circled in the red. So that is a second engine or the pusher engine that was attached to this train so that it will traverse the steep gradient. So this is the pusher engine. Okay, a more closer look you can see here. And once the up gradient or the steep gradient is covered and it comes on the plain terrain, then this pusher engine is removed and it is again taken downhill for the next train. So that if you have such kind of gradient where you require a helping engine to push your train so that all the load is taken at one time to the upside of the hill, then this type of gradient is known as the pusher or the helper gradient. Now again, this pusher and the helper or this pusher gradient, it is greater than your ruling gradient because your topography is in extreme stage. It is a lot of hilly and mountainous. So again, it is violating our rule that we saw here that no gradient should be steeper than ruling gradient. But again, this pusher gradient, it will not be used to determine the maximum load of your engine. So if we use this pusher gradient to determine maximum load, then maybe whatever is the load of this one engine, 50% also it will not be able to carry on the pusher gradient. So that's why it is not used to find out the maximum load. So this is the pusher gradient. Now what I'll do is I'll stop here for today. We have yet one more gradient remaining that will be covering tomorrow's lecture. I'll give you some time, today's time, to grasp in the concept of ruling gradient because it's very important and it's a quite tricky or confusing uh, to get at the first or initial stage. You need to assimilate the thought that what is a ruling gradient, how it is related to maximum load, what is the concept of a section, and then what can be the other gradients which will violate the rule of this ruling gradient. So on that note, I'll just stop here. So once again, to just summarize, ruling gradient is nothing but such a gradient on a section. I'm always mentioning this, and you have to write the same in your, or it should also reflect in your answers that ruling gradient for a particular track section or a section is such a gradient which determines that one engine can carry how much maximum load. So that is nothing but the ruling gradient. And no gradient will be steeper than your ruling gradient except in some cases, and those cases are, it can be a momentum gradient in which you have a steep upgrade or a upslope, or it can be a pusher gradient. Again, it is found in the valley region. So in these cases, your gradient, it can be greater than your ruling gradient, but it will not be used for determining the maximum load. The only gradient which is used for determining a maximum load, it will be the ruling gradient. So on this thought, I'll leave it to you for today to understand these three types of gradients. Tomorrow, I'll be covering the fourth type of gradient, that is the station yard gradient, and also I'll be trying to give you a virtual demo about this ruling gradient and these other types of gradient. Okay? So pusher gradient, the examples for those in India are generally the Western Ghats, where broad gauge is used. So you can find the gradient as steep as 1 in 37. So 1 in 37 is quite steep, as well as in Northern Railways in Darjeeling, northeast it comes. So you have a narrow gauge there due to constraint of width, and there the gradient is much more steeper. It's 1 in 25. So 1 in 25 is in, if I go 25-meter horizontal, I get a 1-meter rise. So that is the steepness of your gradient. Okay, so this is 1 in 25. So 1 in 37 will be a little bit milder than this, but it will again be steeper. By just looking at these two triangles, you will not be able to compare the steepness, but on side actually it will be much more steeper. Then coming to the fourth type, the station yard gradient. Now station yard, it is nothing but, those of you who might have not seen, so it is nothing but the parking or the temporary repair works of your trains. They go in the station yard. So this is the typical photo on your right side of a station yard. So you can see a lot of railway tracks converging at some point. Okay, and then you have some sheds. So in this sheds, the repair works, maintenance work, they go on. And if it is not, the train is not under repair, so it is just simply parked on one of the railway tracks. So that's a station yard gradient. So now a question might come to your mind that if it is just the vehicles, it's just like a parking lot. So if it is parked, so why do you require gradient for this station yard? So what do you think might be the answer? Just type it in the chat box that why do you think a gradient needs to be provided in the station yard? It's just a parking area or a maintenance area. So whether a gradient should be provided or not, and if it is provided, why it is provided? Just mention the reason in the chat box. I'll just give you 2-3 minutes. Yeah. Deepak's answer is one of the answer is correct, that for drainage purpose, though it's only a parking lot, but then too we have seen that if your railway tracks get flooded, so it will damage the whole system and it will become unstable. So for that you require some minimum drainage. So for that you need this. That's one thing. Any other reason that why this station yard gradient might be provided? Okay, so one of the reasons is mainly the drainage, but if we are providing a gradient, so we should be careful that it should be a low gradient or a less gradient. It should not be a steeper gradient. Now, why I am saying this, that it should be low? Because of two reasons. That your train is simply parked over there. So it might happen that if the gradient is a bit steeper, unknowingly the stationary gradient has been designed, or error has been there in designing the stationary gradient, and it is steep, then what will happen is, though it is just parked, if there is a gush of wind, strong wind, so under gravity your train might start moving. So that is not the case that we want, that a parked train will start moving just by some push, maybe a push from another engine, or just by the strong wind. So that should not happen. So that's why this gradient has to be as less as possible, but it should also be such that there is the drainage of water. Okay, so you have to balance it. And then the another important thing is, if again your gradient is not less, it is a little bit steep. So what will happen is, I said this is a parking lot. So your trains, if it has to start its journey, so it will start its journey from here itself. From here it will start, the engine will start, and the train will go to the platform. So that starting energy that will be consumed, or the work that will be done by the railway engine, if your gradient, station yard gradient is steeper, then this there will be additional work to be done, or additional resistance due to the gradient for starting the vehicle. So again, it's a small point, but you need to consider that also. So due to main these two reasons, the station yard gradient should be low as possible, but it should be sufficient enough to allow the drainage of water, drainage of runoff, whatever is collected on the surface. And for this purpose, you can see the general values that are seen in Indian Railways for station yard. They are 1 in 1000 to 1 in 400. So it's quite a mild gradient. If you consider this and the pusher gradient, so pusher gradient is 137. So you can understand the difference between the two gradients. One is 1000 is if I go 1 kilometer horizontal, so I'll be going 1 meter vertical. So that much mild is the station yard gradient. So you will not be able to even identify whether there is a gradient or not. But once water gets accumulated, it will flow in this direction and then the drainage will take place. So these are the station yard. This is all about station yard gradient. So before going to the next topic, I just wanted to show you one exercise. So this I have shown yesterday also. So it's Google Earth. It's a good application to be used for desktop and laptop. So what we can do is we can all actually get a 3D mapping of the area that you are considering. Now this is the, as I said you, it's a Karjat Lonavala section. So I have just marked the alignment. Simply I have drawn a line over the railway tracks. Now if you see, I have just zoomed it. So these are the railway tracks. So what I have done is I have just drawn this line with the help of this command add path, and then I have followed the railway track. So why this is a useful one, because you will be seeing now that if I just get this elevation profile, so this is the elevation profile for my Karjat to Lonavala section. If you see on the top side, you'll be seeing a red arrow, okay, which is moving continuously as I scroll my cursor or move my cursor at the bottom. So the bottom one, the graph that you are seeing, that's an elevation profile for this railway track. So when I start from Karjat, so if you see the elevation here, it is 48 meter. Okay, so elevation of Karjat is 48 meter. It is almost at sea level, you can say. If 0 MSL is considered sea level at Mumbai, so almost it is at sea level. And the Lonavala on the extreme right, it is 623 meter. Okay. So almost there is a difference of 580 meter. 580 meter, if you convert into feet, so you'll get a, if I just convert into feet, so you get a difference of 157 to 204. So almost 1500 feet is the difference in Karjat and Lonavala. So now what I want to show you in this graph is just if we go on calculating the gradient. Now if I told you to calculate the gradient for the first 5 kilometers or first 4 kilometers, if I say, so just if you have a notebook and pen, just write down this, that add uh, make two columns, or I'll just show you. Okay, so write something like this: horizontal and vertical. H is horizontal and V is vertical. Okay, so at 0 horizontal, you have 48 meter of elevation. So 0 horizontal, 48 meter of vertical, and for the 4 kilometers, suppose that 4 kilometer I have an elevation of 60 meter. Okay, if you see the pointer where I have placed, so it's 4 kilometer, and you have a small box of 60 meter above. So that's the elevation at 4 kilometer So for 4 kilometer, you have a 60 meter vertical. Okay, so now if you just make the units same, so if I convert everything into meter, so at zero chainage or zero horizontal, you have a 48 meter height. At 4 kilometer, that is 4000 meter. I have a 60 meter height. So if I find out the difference of these two, so it comes out to be 12 meter. Okay. So what I get is, again, if I write horizontal vertical, so for 4000 meter horizontal, I am getting a vertical rise of 12 meter. Okay. If you simply divide 4000 by 12, just do a simple calculation, or you can see that 4000 divided by 12. So 4000 divided by 12, you get 333.33. Okay. So you get this value. So that means your gradient is 1 in almost 330. So this is your gradient from for the first 4 kilometer of the track or section that we are considering, and the section we are considering is from Cursor to Lonavala. Okay, so now this is just for example, and what I really want to show you is, for first 4 kilometer, when your train leaves from Cursor, for first 4 kilometer, it is just having a gradient up gradient of 1 in 330. And now if you really see beyond 4 kilometer, now you see from this point, from 4.3 kilometer onward, it starts some up gradient, steep up gradient. So if I calculate that, so if I see at 4.5, it has 68 meter of elevation. So 4.5 to 68 meter. So again, if I write, again at 4.5 kilometer, you have a 68 meter elevation. And if I take another point, I'm just calculating the slope, just like you calculate the slope for any graph, straight line graph. So similar way I'm calculating. So here I'm getting 7.8 almost. So at 7.8 kilometer, it's 133 meter elevation. So 7.8 kilometer, 133 meter of elevation. So again, now I have x1, x2 and y1, y2. I'll calculate the difference. So this difference comes out to be, you can calculate it side by side. So 7.8 kilometer minus 4.5, it comes out to be 3.3 kilometer. And similarly 133 minus 68, it comes out to be 65 meter. Okay, so this is the change in your elevation. So again, I convert this kilometer to meter, so it's 3300 meter. So if I go horizontal 3300 meter, I get a rise in my elevation by 65 meter. Again, if I just divide 3300 by 65, the answer that you get is 50.76. Okay, that means from 4.5 kilometer to 7.8 kilometer, your gradient, it has now changed to 1 in 50.76, almost 51 you can say. So just see the difference, the drastic difference, that up to 4 kilometer when you started from Karjat. So for the first 4 kilometer, your train traveled one in triple three gradient. So that's a mild one. But as soon as it crossed 4.5 kilometer, it started a up gradient, and for this much stretch of almost 3 kilometer, its gradient went on to as steep as 1 in 50 or 51. Okay. So if you go ahead and just see some other sections, so the gradient might even fall up to 1 in 40. Okay. So it will be as steep as 1 in 40. So the purpose of showing you this elevation profile is this will be useful for you to understand actually how difficult it is to get a train uphill or to cross the ghat section. And whatever spikes you see in this bottom graph, whatever spikes you see, these spikes, so these spikes are nothing but the tunnel locations. Okay. So as I have just drawn the line over the railway track, so in this image, this Google Earth Pro, what you get is the satellite image is the feed used here. So in satellite image, you don't see the image of railway tracks inside the tunnel. So I have just drawn the tentative railway track over the topography. So that's why you are seeing a spikes. So wherever you see such abrupt spikes, that means your railway has gone through a tunnel. Okay. So you have a few tunnels here. You have one tunnel here. Okay. Then you have again small spikes here. You have a spikes here, and just before your train it enters Lonavala, so there is a huge tunnel. If you see here, so the red arrow that I am showing, so this is the tunnel. So the railway goes underneath, and above you have the Khandala Lake and some part of the Lonavala town. So just before entering Lonavala, this is the scenario, and then again it comes out here. So the purpose of again showing you this is those of you who have laptops or desktop with you and access to internet, so you can just download this Google Earth Pro. It's a free open source software. You can download it from Google, and you can play around like this. You can understand the things easily related to the topography or the gradients, and you can just go on playing with it. Another line I have drawn here is the yellow line. Now this yellow line is again a railway track, but now it's from Lonavala to Malavali. So those of you who have traveled by local, so from Lonavala to Malavali, if I find the elevation profile now, so you can see spikes, but if you see on the left side of this graph, so the elevation variation is quite less. So it's 623 to almost 616 is the lowest over here. Maybe there is a bridge or something here. Okay, so at this section, the just topography has sunken. So if you find the gradient for this, as we have calculated for uh, two examples of Karjat Lonavala section. So if you calculate, so at 0 meter, if I take the highest point, so at 0, it's 623 meter. Okay. So again, if I go here, I'll just use a different color so that we are getting a different, or we are calculating it for different section. So what I said, for 0, it's 623 meter. So 623 meter. And if I see the end point up to Maravali, so Maravali it is 618 at 7.72. So 7.72 kilometer. 618 meters. So again now, if I calculate the difference in this two, so this is 7.72 kilometer itself. I'll convert it to meter. So it's 7720 meter, and the difference of these two, so hardly there is a difference of 5 meter. Okay, and if I divide it now, if I divide 7720 by 5, the answer that you get is 1544. Okay, so that's the gradient for the green one is for Lonavala to Modavali section. So for that you have, for a 7 kilometer stretch between the two stations, 7.72 precisely. So for this stretch, the gradient comes out to be 1 in 1544. So you can see the difference, the vast difference, that this was the starting point of a ghat section. Before just the starting point, the gradient was 1 in 300. In the ghat section, one of the section, we found out the gradient is as steep as 1 in 50. And Lonavala to Madhavali, it is almost a plain terrain. So in that you can find out the gradient is as less or as mild as 1 in 1500. So I hope you are now clear with the concept of gradient. So I have just given these examples for clearing your concept that what might be the different gradients in the actual railway track. So whatever the track I had shown in the Google Earth, so that's the actual railway track in existing condition. So now if you segregate or want to segregate these gradients, so from this very well we can say that this 1 in 50 is the pusher gradient that we have for that section. And now we don't know the ruling gradient, that is the design gradient that might be that was taken by the Indian Railway or the Central Railway for that section. So it can be anywhere between these two values. Okay? So we don't know that, but we know for sure that this is the pusher gradient now. Okay, so that was related to this Google Earth. Coming back to our presentation, so I hope you have understood the gradients now. Now, a last part in gradient is nothing but a grade compensation. Now, what happens sometimes is you have an extreme conditions, like on your right side, what you see, it's a picture that you have a horizontal curve, you have a train which is taking turn at uh, right turn, right hand turn, and at the same time, if you observe the railway track, so it is going in the up direction, so you have a up gradient as well. Okay? So you have a turn. Okay. Turn, we say that you have a horizontal curve in technical terms. You have a horizontal curve plus you have an up gradient. So now you all know, again, if you apply the mechanics uh, here, so for up gradient you require to do a lot of work. So work done for up gradient is more. Similarly, the work that has to be done for horizontal curve, that is also somewhat greater. And say I'll draw a small arrow because a little extra effort is required and more effort is required for up gradient. Now when I combine these two, so what I will get is the total work done or the total load that will come on your engine, it will be a huge one. So in that case, it can even happen that your engine can fail over here. So what is done is, in this case, if your railway or your in your railway alignment, you are encountering that there is a horizontal curve as well as an up gradient. So in order to reduce the extra effort on your engine, what is done is the grade is compensated, as in the gradient part whatever is the gradient, it is reduced a bit. Okay, so as you can just read it here. So in order to avoid this resistances, so what is done is the gradient is reduced only on the curve section. Okay, and this reduction is called as the grade compensation. And we calculated by some formula. So for Indian Railways, what they have done is they have two ways of determining it. Either you provide grade compensation as per the degree of curve. Now you all know that horizontal curve, it is nothing but it is a part of a complete circle. So obviously whatever is the curve, it will have some subtended angle at the center, theta. So if we know this radius of the curve, if you know this radius r, and you also know the theta, either of the two, so you can find out how much grade has to be compensated. So for broad gauge, if you see, it's 0.04% per degree of the curve. So whatever is the degree of the curve, 2 degree, 3 degree, 5 degree curve. So accordingly, for 1 degree curve, it has to be reduced by 0.04%. So if it's a 2 degree curve, so it will be 0.08% decrease. Okay. Now you might feel that 0.04% or 0.03%, it's a very less amount. But if you convert it into the slopes and the work done by the engine, that is also a substantial decrease. And if I have radius of the curve known instead of the central angle, so then also I can calculate the grade compensation using these formulas. So for broad gauge, it's 70 by R, for NG, it's 52.5 by R, and NG, it's 35 by R. M, it's broad gauge, meter gauge, and narrow gauge. So grade compensation, it's important concept to understand, to apply also. And in your competitive exams, questions can be asked. A small numerical is also asked related to this, that what is the grade compensation if your track has a curve of say 50-meter on a up gradient. So in that case, you need to find out the grade compensation using one of this formula, depending on the type of your gauge. So this is all regarding the gradient. I hope you have understood. So just to revise, what was gradient is, it's nothing but departure of track from level, and we provided for these reasons mainly. If you have stations at different elevations and if you want to reduce the cost of earthwork, so you go for gradient. You have different ways of expressing it. Then we saw the types. The ruling gradient, it is a gradient for a particular track section where it determines what should be the maximum load that your engine will carry. And generally, whatever is the ruling gradient, once it is determined or designed or assigned, then no gradient on your that section should be steeper than this ruling gradient. But there are exceptions. First exception can be a momentum gradient, in which the momentum gradient is nothing but this up gradient, which is given just after this down gradient, so that the momentum generated during this down gradient, it is used to traverse the up gradient. So that's the momentum gradient. And second exception can be the pusher gradient, where in case of steep slopes or hilly topography, what you need is an extra engine or two to push your train. So that's a pusher gradient. So these were the typical values that I discussed. Now, if you see the Western Ghat, just now what we calculated for Karjat-Lonavala section, the 1 in 50 slope, so that also comes in Western Ghat. So this is the minimum or the most steepest slope that you will find in Western Ghat. So 1 in 50 is steep, but 1 in 37 is more steeper. It might be some for some of the section, some other section that might be there in the Western Ghats. Then station yard gradient, it is mainly provided for drainage purpose. It should be sufficient enough to drain off the water, but it should be low enough, less enough, or mild enough to prevent the movement of standing vehicles and to prevent the additional resistance due to gradient. Now, just movie that I recollected by reading this point is there is a movie. If you people are interested in watching an English movie, is a English movie called Unstoppable. So what is shown in that movie is uh, the same thing is shown that there is a station yard just like this, and a driver parks his train on the station yard, but he forgets to uh, apply the permanent brakes like we apply handbrake for your four wheelers when we park it at some slope. So, or generally, even if we park it, we uh, apply the handbrake. So that kind of brake is there in your railways also. So that driver forgets to apply that brake and he just gets down from the train for a minute or so. And in that 1 minute itself, the train uh, goes on moving because it is on some gradient, or that station yard gradient is there, and under gravity it starts moving, and it's picks up speed, and then it becomes unstoppable. So it's a good movie. If you have it, if you could see it on online, I'm I will suggest that you see it. You'll get many concepts of railway engineering in that movie that you will see. You will see the railway tracks and whatever measures they apply to stop the train. Or if you have seen that movie, then it's a good one. Okay, so Unstoppable is the movie that you can see related to this gradient concept. Okay, then we saw the different gradients that can be calculated, or we calculated for Karjat Lonavala and Lonavala Moravali section. And then we saw grade compensation. It is mainly provided where you have a horizontal curve plus an up gradient. So to reduce the total work on your engine, what is done is the grade is little bit compensated, or it is reduced. So it is reduced using this one of these hand rules that are provided by the Indian Railways. So that's all for today.